A Second Chance by LightShadow. The Everfree Forest, a wide expanse of trees that reaches out across Equestria. No magic ever happens in the forest, save for the few times when it was needed. It has become a hive for monsters of many sizes. Lush green trees block out the sunlight to the earth below, covering the ground in darkness. Vines hang from the trees, low enough to strangle any pony unlucky enough to run into them. Mushrooms litter the ground, forming fairy rings on the hot earth. Large toadstools gave off light as fireflies flew around them. Rotting leaves and branches lay on the ground, and forgotten pathways litter the landscape. Tree roots spike up from the ground to trip any passing pony. Timber wolves and chimeras dominate the woodlands, eating any meat that comes close to them. Yes, the Everfree is a very scary place, and very few ponies ever go near it, except for one lonely soul. A figure as black as the night sky walks the lonely road of the Everfree. Her green cat-like eyes are parted by a long, thin strand of her deep blue mane, which flows down to the side of her head like a coat of silk. A slick wetness runs down her face, and her fangs are slightly hidden by a frown of some pony lost in thought. Her tattered insect-like wings are folded across her back. Indeed, just like the rest of her body, it too is littered with holes, from the crooked horn that rests on her forehead to the lower portion of her legs. Though the holes aren't from injury, and they don't seem to buck her in the slightest as she walks on with her head hung low. Chrysalis, queen of the changelings, weep over her losses, for she has lost her hive and her power. Hunger, loneliness, and grief haunt her mind. Slowly, she remembers some sad details from her past. When she was a nymph freshly hatched out of her egg, she dreamed of bringing her people glory. She was an excitable and cheerful young nymph, made many friends within the hive. One of her friends was a young prince named Kit. The two were the best of friends and spent many days exploring the nooks and crannies of the hive. In her teens, she fell in love with him, but it was never meant to be because she wasn't royalty. Kit suggested that she go to the academy to rise through the ranks and get to the top. Chrysalis joined the academy so that one day she would be reunited with her love interest, Kit. She learned the ways of the hive and quickly rose through the ranks through hard work and determination. This quickly got the attention of Kit, who made her general of the changeling army, where she earned the right to wed him and become a queen. Now charged with taking care of the hive, she starts to wonder if she could bring the hive more. So far the food supply is good, and there is no need to invade other lands. They gather food by kidnapping other ponies to feed all of their love. Sometimes the occasional changeling takes on their form to live with the ponies of Littleton Village. Littleton Village was a small town just on the outskirts of the hive. Though the changelings tend to terrorize them, they don't seem to care as they always have had numbers on their side. They sometimes leave those who are about to die or sick out on the streets to give them up to the hive in worship. The town folks consider the changelings gods that provide them with the rain for the crops and good weather when they need it. As the days went by, the hive grew and the food supply was starting to drop, as the village was starting to disappear due to the fact that they had overhunted the village. Her subjects, hungry and desperate for food, started to fight amongst themselves. This became the Changeling Revolution, which ended up with the hive splitting into two groups. One group wanted to find peace with the villagers to ensure that the food supply never dwindles again, while the others wanted to keep the tradition of kidnapping and trickery. Chrysalis was soon forced to intervene, which started a 10-year civil war in the hive. Chrysalis snapped back out of her thoughts. That war was what made her cold-hearted to others in the first place. She continued on her way as the forest became darker and slowly went back into thought. The war was brutal and bloody and made changelings lost their lives. Chrysalis couldn't stand the sight of her subjects fighting like this. Slowly went into a state of deep depression. Her husband Kit comforted her in her time of need, but the love that they had for each other wouldn't last. Kit was soon called out into the battlefield and lost his life during the attack. Chrysalis was hit hard. She lost the love of her life, and soon she locked herself away in her chamber for 5 long depressing years. The war may have ended with Kit's death, but Chrysalis still wanted revenge. When she finally came out of her chambers, Chrysalis gathered up the ones responsible for Kit's death and slaughtered them. With her revenge finished, Chrysalis resumed her job as queen. Back in reality, Chrysalis stopped to wipe a tear from her eye. She still missed Kit, even though she got over his death. The pain of losing a loved one always hurts long after they are gone. She remembered how her subjects tried to get her out of her chambers and lead the hive once more. That day she killed off half the hive, and it marked the time when she heard herself had changed into the tyrant she was a while ago. She stopped suddenly when she heard the sound of growl-like snores coming from behind a bush. Not wanting to wake whatever creature was sleeping, Chrysalis slowly crept away. She made sure not to make any noise, and soon, once she was at a safe distance, she continued her long and lonely walk. The funeral was held for Kit soon after he died. His death marked an age of peace within the hive. Even though half the changelings were killed off by Chrysalis, he was still saddened by his death, and she started to look for other ways to find happiness, ranging from attacking villages and sex. She even started to collect gold and other treasures. But no matter what she did, Chrysalis couldn't find the happiness she felt when her husband Kit was still alive. His death still haunted her. The hive quickly grew at a fast pace, and the food supplies were becoming dangerously low once more. The village had grown to fear her, and they moved on to different pastures in the hopes of living happier lives. But then Chrysalis decided to expand her territory throughout Equestria in the search for food, which started the Pony Changeling Wars in the south. For 11 long years, the two races fought, with Chrysalis emerging as the victor at the battle at Old Trondheim Castle, which ended with the death of King Charles III. His daughter Princess Miamora Cadenza managed to escape with the help of her caretakers and her love Shining Amo. Chrysalis, not wanting the royal bloodline to continue, sent some of her own guards after them. They lost the princess near the Everfree, which led to the discovery of Cancelot and Ponyville. It was starting to rain now, and Chrysalis was going through her past. A drop of rain snapped her out of her thoughts, and soon she had to find cover or risk dying of hypothermia. As she ran through the mud, she heard thunder in the background. A tree fell down with a crash, making her panic. Chrysalis was relieved to find a cave. But she went inside, and was soon resting on the cold, hard rug of the cave. She lit a campfire, and went back to her own thoughts once more. The next few weeks were hectic, as Chrysalis had to deal with the fact that the princess had escaped and also that the food supply was still low. She was relieved, however, when a scout came to her stating that he had found a land overflowing with love. Chrysalis was overjoyed, and she had her armies prepared for invasion. The next few weeks her armies were prepared for war. Chrysalis was so overconfident that she had sent a message to the leaders of the land, Prince Celestia and her sister Luna, in the hopes of making them panic and thus easier to invade. She even learned that Princess Cadenza, now called Cadence, had found true love in the captain of the royal guard, Shining Amo. This then gave Chrysalis a new plan of attack. Chrysalis saw an opportunity to sneak into the castle without notice, and quickly kidnapped the princess and disguised herself as Cadence. She was wrapping Shining Amo around her hooves as her subjects got into position for the invasion. It wasn't supposed to be, however, as soon was found out, and defeated by not only the elements of harmony, but Princess Cadence as well. The resulting blast of magic had scattered the hide and drained her of magic. Now she is a shadow forever walking in sadness, doomed to be alone forever. That was her life so far. Chrysalis felt bad for the decision she made. She soon started to question her own existence. Did she make the right choices in the past? Should she have chosen the path of peace instead of war? Chrysalis didn't know what to do now, and soon she fell asleep. Her dreams were as dark as always, depicting all those she heard in the past. It scared her to think about right now. It was dark all around her. The ghosts of her victims were floating around her, screaming in agony. She ran through the abyss in the hopes of losing them. A large figure resembling a rotting corpse appeared in front of her and swallowed her whole. She woke up in a cold sweat and soon started on her way again. She wished she could go back in time and fix the past mistakes she made. Chrysalis was sad, lonely, and hungry. She wanted food, but above all else, she wanted companionship and love. She wanted a second chance. She was determined to get it at all costs. Sounds of ponies hit her ears, and her heart did a flip. Maybe this was her chance to make peace with herself and start a new life. She ran towards the sound and soon came upon a small village that was hidden in the forest. It wasn't any village, though. It was a tribe of zebras. They were busy going about their own business. She looked in awe at the village. Never before had she seen a zebra, let alone a tribe of them. She stepped out of the bushes silently and started to walk to the middle of the village. The villagers, however, had other plans. They soon noticed a strange creature trotting into the village, and soon they surrounded her. Chrysalis was frightened. She didn't know what was going to happen to her, and soon she was cowering in the ground. The zebras, however, called the chief over to see the strange sight. A well-built stallion walked over to her and lifted her head up. He stared at her for what seemed like hours, until he let her go and signaled for the tribe to get food and water. Chrysalis was confused. She thought that these creatures were going to kill her, and now they're nursing her back to health. She was brought over to a small hut where the villagers wrapped bandages over the holes in her legs, and presented her with food and drink. Chrysalis didn't know what to say. She was both touched and shocked at the same time. She found her second chance. It looked like it to her. Soon she fell asleep on the floor. A few weeks had went by since that day, and Chrysalis had been accepted into the tribe. Her tribe mates help her get used to the way things work, from herb gathering to potion making. She was also taught how to defend herself against the many dangers of the forest. Her teacher, Little Spoon, never left her side. To Chrysalis, it felt like she was a nymph all over again, and to be taught how to do this and how to do that. But she prevailed, and soon she was as good as the chief when it came to potion making. The chief was a well-built stallion that was easily twice her size. He had a thin body but strong legs, which made him both the fastest and the strongest in the entire tribe. His name was Thunderfoot, a well-deserving name at that, too, as he could buck any pony halfway across the forest if they angered him. Chrysalis was fascinated by him, and couldn't help but develop a small crush on Thunderfoot. Chrysalis soon became the village doctor, as her remedies and potions helped with all sorts of problems, from aches and pains to stomach cramps. She was even rumored to be able to make a love charm for those that asked. Chrysalis loved the attention. Not only did it give her power, it also made her feel wanted and special. She loved that feeling, and soon she had a permanent residence there. She never really had the courage to tell Thunderfoot how she felt about him, but soon that was all about to change. One day she was out gathering herbs with Thunderfoot when they were attacked by a pack of timberwolves. Thunderfoot lashed out and fought them off. Hoof and Claw met each other in the battle as blood rained down to the ground. Soon Thunderfoot had successfully fought off the wolves, but he was seriously injured during the fight. At once to see the man who took her in and made her one of his own, Chrysalis picked him up and carried him back to the village and into her hut. As she bandaged up his leg and cleaned his wounds, Thunderfoot said something to her that made her heart flip. Thunderfoot had a crush on her, but never had the guts to say it to her. Chrysalis was overjoyed. She too told him that she had a crush on him, and soon the two kissed and locked lips. A dance was held by the fire pit in their honor, and soon the two were wed. Chrysalis has finally found her second chance. The end.